And we're on. Kirsten Moore, thanks for being on Fitness and Consciousness.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been a little while since I've been on a podcast, so this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool to have you here. So I know of you through social media, and I think maybe originally through James Fuller's Strongman Archaeology. And so I see you post a lot of um, very interesting movements. And so can you tell us, like, where did you start your lifting? Like, where does all of this come from? What's the beginning?
Well, I turned 40 this year, and I've trained since I was 16 years old. And my initial lifting career was in bodybuilding. But it's kind of funny how I got started. I mean, everyone has a story for going into bodybuilding, and my story is that I was an obese teenager, and I was really badly bullied throughout my school years. I can't remember one year where I wasn't bullied, and I hated school. So the first thing I did when I left school was I joined a gym, and there was a gym in Aberdeen in Scotland where I come from, called the Credo Gym, and it's not there now, but it was a great little gym, and that's where I started working out, just with a pure vision of losing fat and not having anyone bully me again, because I just had enough. And walked into the gym, and the instructor, who was one of these cookie cutter instructors at the time that would just give you a one size fits all program to everyone, said to me, what do you want to do? Of course, I wanted to lose weight. And she was going to put me on machines and whatnot. And I said, no, I want to lift the weight. And she just kind of looked at me, and I said, well, my grandfather was a weightlifter, which he was. I mean, he's passed away now. But I knew that it was in my background to be able to use these things. So, well, if he did it, I want to do it. And so she kind of reluctantly put free weights into my program, because it clearly wasn't something she was very big on. And, because it didn't fit the parameters of, 4 sets of 10 on a leg extension, and then a leg curl, and then a chest press machine. And I was like, no, I want to use those things. So she figured out something, and it was a full body regime, as was very common at the time for beginners. And I was told very strictly, you go into the gym 3 times a week. We don't want to see you any more than 3 times a week, and this is what you do. And if you're in more often, you do cardio, blah, blah, blah. So obviously I ignored everything that she said, and I ended up going in there 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week. I was lifting weights every day, and I lost a lot of body fat. And within about 5 or 6 months, it was noticeable to people who were in the gym. Shit, this kid's training hard. She's pushing here. So some of the guys that were in the gym would offer me bits of advice. Have you thought about doing this or trying that? And then someone approached me in the gym one day. He was a personal trainer, and he said, you ever thought about competing? I'm like, competing in what? I don't know. And he said, I run a bodybuilding show in Aberdeen. It's going to be on next week. Come along and watch. See what you think. You might like it. So I went along and I watched it, and I'd never seen anything like this before in my life. And I'm sitting there still with the mindset of a fat kid, thinking, wow, this is awesome, but I couldn't do that. And I basically said that to him, and he said, you're most of the way there. You could do it. So, to kind of cut a long story short, that this guy who was encouraging me to compete, it turned out that, when he found out my name, my surname, he said, Moore, you're not Jimmy Moore's granddaughter. That was my grandfather. I said, yeah. He said, oh my God. He started me off training. He was one of the young guys that my grandfather had trained. My grandfather, he had a gym in Aberdeen, and He trained young guys in powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, and bodybuilding, because it was a time in the 1940s and 50s and even the 60s where you did all three. You know, you would compete and train in one, and that would lead you into the season for the next one, lead you into the season for the next one. And this guy, who I came to know affectionately as Uncle Stan Main, was one of the young guys that my grandfather had taught. So the minute he found out I was his mentor's grandchild, he just took me under his wing, and he started offering me advice and helping me out. And I ended up doing his competition the following year when I was 17. And that was my very first show in the figure category. And I was overjoyed because I wasn't last. I was third out of 4 on that day. And I just got bitten by the bug. It was a huge rush for me, because I'd gone from being this obese person to being this in shape, you know, and envied person on a stage. And it was like, wow, what can I do with this? And it started my obsession with bodybuilding. That was it. I was hooked, and I competed pretty much non-stop for about 3 years. And by the time I was 19, I had took runner-up at the Scottish finals. I'd won numerous contests. I represented my country at the British finals, and I qualified for the World Championships to represent Scotland as well. So I went to Spain when I was 20 to represent Scotland, but I qualified at age 19. So I packed a lot into a 3-year period, and it was a full-on time. And then I took a hiatus from competing for a couple of years, and then went back in again at the age of 21 and got crucified because they said I was too big for figure, which I was. You know, I can look back now and look at the pictures and accept, yeah, okay, I was too big. And then I got pissed off, as a lot of people do when they don't get results that they want. And I said, screw this, I'm not competing again. And then I went to live overseas a number of years later and ended up competing again, but in the physique class. And it turns out I was made for that class, and I ended up just flooring the competition over there. So yeah, so my initial foray was, I need to lose weight because I'm fat and I hate it. And then fell into the bodybuilding thing and stayed there for 13, 14 years. And then I kind of digressed into strength and conditioning and movement type training. Initially, my side step was through kettlebells. So when I became a mother at age 30, I decided I wasn't going to compete in bodybuilding anymore, because as a bodybuilder, I was very tunnel visioned and very focused. And for me, I couldn't combine bodybuilding and being that selfish and focused with being a mother. A lot of people do, but I chose not to. I just didn't see how that could gel. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I went into the gym one day, and there's a couple of kettlebells sitting in the corner of the gym that I was at the time. And they'd clearly not been used for years. They were absolutely covered in dust. And they were these like old type ones that have kind of got the squared off handles. They weren't the lovely round competition ones that I use now. And I actually Googled it because I didn't know what these things were. And I found a thing on bodybuilding.com saying that these are kettlebells. And started playing with them. And then I put the feelers out on Facebook, because social media had appeared by then, and got in touch with Scottish people who were into kettlebells, and I got invited to do workshops with them. And then they said, you're quite good at this, have you thought about certifying? I said, really? Yeah. And a couple of months later, I certified through the IKFF under Steve Cotter directly. So a CKT level 1, 6 months later, I did CKT level 2, and I was the highest qualified female kettlebell instructor in Scotland for quite some time. Actually, there was a few of them in England, because I was there at kind of the very beginning when kettlebells were really taking a foothold. I mean, kettlebell coaches in this part of the world are 10 a penny now. It's like they're just frigging everywhere. But back then they weren't. So my training was directly under Cotter. And then I also certified under Steve Maxwell. I love that man. I think he's awesome. And I've also did some work with Mike Mahler. So I've kind of switched between different styles of kettlebell lifting as well. So it's given me a really deep understanding of gear sport, also hard style, and how you can combine the two for more mainstream. So it's been a real interesting journey. So yeah, initially a bodybuilder, then moved into kettlebells, and for a short period of time I ventured into CrossFit, and I got my CrossFit level 1 certification. And I don't normally admit that because I hate CrossFit with a passion, and anyone who knows me will know that. It's like I just test it, and I'll say it on social media. I've said it before. I don't care who gets on at me about it. I think it's a great concept done insanely badly by the majority. I think the concept is awesome, but most places do it awful, you know, and people can disagree with me on that if they want. I think your top level CrossFitters are amazing athletes. I think they're phenomenal, but the majority at ground level are being taught very badly, and they're the ones that make up the bulk of the numbers. So I joined a cult, as I see CrossFit at the time, and it wasn't for me, and I struggled teaching this stuff. And I said, no, I can't do this. And I stepped back and focused on kettlebells and combining what I knew with kettlebells and bodyweight work and mobility work that I learned from Steve Maxwell, and combining that with the bodybuilding experience that I'd garnered over so many years as well. So I kind of became this hybrid, you know, someone that could look like a bodybuilder but move quite well. And if someone has a problem, oh wait a minute, she might be able to fix it. So I kind of became known as this person that if your squat's not right, go and see Kirsten, she'll fix it. If your deadlift's not right, go see her, she'll fix it. It's like it's like you become the Miss Fix-It in the training world. And I've had people come to me from different parts of Scotland if they've come into the gyms I've been at, or when I lived overseas as well. Oh, I've heard about you. You'll fix my squat, or you'll fix my deadlift, or you'll fix my swing. I've been told to ask you, not ask someone else. So I'm quite known for having very sharp technique on anything that I do. I take great pride in how I perform movement, how I train myself as well as others. Yeah, I'm known for fully being really clean and tidy when it comes to training, and people that I work with have great confidence that when I give them something to do, it's going to be done the right way. So that's kind of my background as to how I got to that place, how I got from being a bodybuilder that's all about, to be honest, vanity, you know, to doing things that are more about performance and function. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride. I've packed quite a lot of stuff in to the last 24 years. Yeah, 24 years.
Yeah, that's a lot of good experience. Steve Maxwell and Steve Cotter have both been on my podcast, and I really look up to both of them. They're both just amazing. And there is, I like how you say, like this hard style and the sport style, and then like whatever Steve is doing, it's like kind of this his own thing. And there is like you can't have this one. It's this kettlebell is just like this magical thing that you can have different styles. You can make your own style. I call my style freestyle, and almost like because you can't really define it exactly. And I don't think I can own that. Like, it's not like something that I can trademark, I don't think. So I do that like on purpose, kind of, because I don't want it to be something that you can get a hold of. So like, yes, we have like tight technique. Technique has to be really tight. And so we're like strong, explosive. We can flow. We can be like this, like slow and beautiful, or explosive. And it's kind of like everything. You can't quite get you can't just define it and have that be it, I guess. So I'm always looking at all these different ones. So getting back to your grandfather, were you was he ever able to teach you anything about lifting, or was he already passed by the time you started?
I didn't get a lot of help from him because he did pass away when I was 20. Yeah.
Okay,
So I mean, he wasn't really present in my life physically until I was about 13. It was a really funny story. You know, every family has a funny story. Funny, tragic, whatever way you want to call it. My grandfather and grandmother parted when my dad, I think, was maybe in his 20s. And back then, this would be like the late 60s, early 70s, and it was very kind of, people splitting up and oh my God. And he went and, they got divorced and he got remarried and had a new life and all of that. And they got back together in their 70s.
Oh, wow. That's really
like, wow, you couldn't write this. It's like, I'd never even met him until I think I was 13. And then all of a sudden, here's this person back in your life. And it's like, wow, I've only ever seen pictures of you. Because my grandmother, even though they'd been divorced, she always held a torch for him. And she had this, she had a tin box. I remember it so clearly. And it was full of pictures from his bodybuilding shows, weightlifting shows, powerlifting, all these things. And I would go through them when I was a kid and just be fascinated by them. So by the time I met him, bodybuilding and lifting had kind of gone into the background in his life, and he'd become more of a hill walker. And he was a guide that would take people through like the Scottish Hills and the Glens and the Munros. So he would take them on very long treks. And he was also into mountain biking. And he lived out in the country, and would go and chop down his own trees. And I remember seeing him walking back to his house one day with, he must have been nearly 80 years old, with a tree over his shoulder, carrying it back to the house. So he was still very strong, very active. But I didn't have an incredibly close relationship with him because they lived quite far from where we were in Aberdeen. But he did see me win my first, he saw me get my first win. He attended my first show. I remember that. And he was at the show that I won, which was the Ms. Granite City show. Aberdeen is known as the Granite City because everywhere is made out of granite. And that was my 13th contest. And I won it. And he was there. And that was a pretty awesome feeling. So he gave me some tips and things. It was, squatting is important. Always squat. I remember him saying, that his tricks for calf development were, he had an office job for a long time, so he would just stand beside his desk and just go up on his tiptoes and down, and just keep on doing that until he cramped, and then switch feet and go again. So that was how he'd fit training into even like his work day. And he would tell me to do just good old fashioned things, like your sit-ups on a sit-up board. If you're going to do barbell curls, get your back flat against a wall. You can't swing it, you can't cheat it. Just little things like that. It was probably he was still of a generation where not many women really trained hard. So it would have probably blew his mind if he'd been alive to see the size that I got to his physique, because he probably wouldn't have been someone who could believe that would happen in that sport. Because back when he was doing it, you did have, there was a Miss Scotland and there was figure. for women, but these girls really, they didn't lift much. They lifted a wee bit, but they were more, I guess it would maybe be like what bikini is termed as being these days.
Mm-hmm.
But they were still seen as being muscular, which is quite funny when you think about it. For back then, that's the way it was. So no, I think he was quite proud of what I was doing, and it probably really surprised him, because my dad never was interested in anything like that. So the fact that I stepped in and carried it on was pretty cool for him.
Yeah, I bet so. And then you start working with somebody that he was close to and training. And then so you can like hear his words through someone else. You're getting his lessons through somewhere else. And it's like this trainer that you had was like this, almost like a medium of like maybe he like has, sometimes we like maybe like pick up a little bit of the sense of humor of our teachers and stuff. Like my jiu-jitsu teacher, maybe I say some things that I get it from him. I'm not trying to like steal his quote, or I am stealing his quotes, but I'm not trying to like pretend they're mine. So I might like say something like, because he's like from Korea, and he'll say like when you're sitting in meditation, like in like seiza, sitting on your ankles, like let it pain. So when I was training for my Strong First certification, the first one, it was like kind of a lot of pressure for me, because I had like a couple lessons, but I was like doing almost everything myself. I'd been training already for years and years. I was a trainer starting in 1999, got out of it for a long time, still like trained, but didn't train professionally. I was trained like friends and friends of friends, but I wasn't really trying to make money at it. And then once I discovered Pavel Tsatsouline, I was like, I want this certification, and it was very difficult. And so like on my in my garage, I wrote "Lit at Pain" on the wall in chalk. So you just kind of like remember, like, yeah, it's not always going to be pleasant, but like you'll get this reward. So yeah, I imagine it's really neat for you to like learn from your grandpa, even though he was like not even around anymore, and to have somebody that thought so highly of him. That's such a amazing thing. So like, do you have access to his like training journals or anything?
No, sadly, no.
You know if you had any, or
anything like that was kept, I don't know what happened to it. I mean, I asked my dad about that kind of stuff, and he even asked his sister. But you know, we couldn't source things, because Brooks Kubik actually asked me a number of years ago if I would write an article about my grandfather, and because he found out who my grandfather was and kind of the story. And he said, this would make a really cool article, Kirsten. Would you write something, you know, about the way that he trained? And I said, absolutely. You let me find out this information. So I just thought I would contact members of family, and they would be like, oh yeah, we've got this and this and this. Nobody had anything. Pretty much the only stuff I have is, you know, I have pictures, I have magazine cuttings. This is everything that I have, and it fits into like one of those plastic A4 Polly Pocket things that we call them. And that's everything that is there that's left, and it's really frustrating, because I don't know where the rest of it is. You know, there must be another family member somewhere that's probably sitting in all this stuff that doesn't realize what they have. So yeah, I was unable to write this article for Brooks, because all I could tell him is what I know anecdotally and can say, and it wasn't enough to fill an article. So it was a bit of a shame, really. But all I know is that he did cycle his training between the different modalities that he was doing at the time. So he was an Olympic lifter, you know, at the time when they still did the split snatch, you know, and they did the split jerk. But the split snatch was still a big thing. So James was like in heaven when, you know, my partner James, he was in heaven when he saw pictures of my grandfather split snatching and stuff like that, because he's very much into older methods of training. And so yeah, I think if my grandfather was still alive at the time, I think it would be he'd be running off with my grandfather and leaving me because he just he was kind of so enthralled with these pictures of him and oh wow, what else did he do? What else can you tell me about him? Like, well, it's all here.
Yeah. What about getting it? What about the trainer that you had that knew him? Like, would he be a source of information for what you're looking for?
Well, he was more into, he's always been a bodybuilder. So Uncle Stan was Mr. Scotland several times, I believe, in NABA. I competed in NABA as well. That's the National Amateur Bodybuilders Association. And they're an international thing. So you have a NABA in the United States as well, but they're not as dominant as maybe your NPC and the likes over there. But NABA is massive throughout Europe. So Stan competed in primarily bodybuilding. I've never asked him if he competed in powerlifting. I'll have to ask him actually. I've not seen him in a long time, but when I do see him, I must ask him. But all of his stuff that I'm aware of was from bodybuilding, and he was very, very active in promoting Scottish bodybuilding for a long time. He did judging and things like that. So that was his calling. That was the thing that he levitated towards to. Whereas in my grandfather's day, who was the generation before him, then they wouldn't pick one. They'd just do them all, just cycle it. Mm-hmm. It was really interesting.
Yeah,
it's totally different to what people do now. Well, I guess it's not so different if you look at CrossFit, because CrossFit, they kind of choose to do everything. But these guys we're doing this for this number of months, and then we'll do this for this number of months, and then we'll do that, and then we'll go back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. So in that respect, they were well balanced. They weren't trying to do all of them at the same time. They were taking turns between each of them. So cycling their training, without even realizing that was what they were doing. It was just what they did. Like now we have terms for these things. Back then it was just, well, no, I'm going to do that for a wee while, and then I'll do that. There wasn't terms for it. It was just that was what you did, and it was based around whatever contests were going on at the time. So you would have, this lot of competitions for bodybuilding there. So we'll train and prep for that. And then once that's done, here's the powerlifting coming. And then powerlifting's done, here's the weightlifting. So it would be centered around competitive events. That's usually how you would work out your training. Back then and even now, you center it around whatever event is coming up. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, it's amazing like what kind of like what lasts over time, and like how they've paved the way for so much of what we're doing now, and how like a lot of the older stuff is getting more popular kind of at the same time as this like movement culture where we're not just trying to like pick up a heavy weight and put it over our head. We're like flowing. Like I was just like scanning through your Facebook and Instagram for stuff like the Cossacks, and then with the pressing, and so you're just like kind of like flowing, but you're also lifting really heavy, and you're doing this both. So your like nickname is Little Tank. Was there a big tank? Was like your grandfather's name Tank, or where did that come from?
It was. It came when I lived in New Zealand. I lived in New Zealand between 2005 and 2009, and I went back over there for a couple of years later. So I've lived there over 2 times for maybe 7 years in total. And when I first moved to New Zealand, I was quite big. I was bigger than I am now, muscular wise, because I was still very much bodybuilding focused. And it was, I used to, because it's quite hot there in the summer, so I would be, going to my work wearing just, like halter neck tops, and I had my shorts on and stuff like that. And my legs tend to enter the room before the rest of me. You know, my legs are quite big, and they were even bigger back then. And my shoulders just had huge caps on the end of them. And I walked into the gym one day, and somebody said to me, well, they kind of exclaimed at the gym, "She is just like a little tank," and it stuck. That was it. Mm-hmm. That was actually it, you know. And it was, oh yeah, we should call her Little Tank. That works. And then I would walk into the gym, and they go, "Hi, LT," and that was it. I trained at a gym in New Zealand called Fitco in the city of Tauranga, where I lived, and so that's where that started. And it was a lady there who I prepped for a figure contest. That came up with a Little Tank thing, and it just literally stuck. Yeah, so I exploited it really. I kind of used it to my advantage, especially when I learned more about social media and about getting your name out there and getting yourself out there, and I thought, well, Little Tank, that sticks in people's heads. Yeah, okay. So I just started, putting my nickname out there instead of my name. If I was writing posts about training or stuff like that, I would end it as Little Tank. I would make videos, instructional videos or tutorials or rants, whatever it was for social media, and I would end it, this is Little Tank. See you guys later. And that's kept on going. So yeah, that's where it started, with New Zealand. Yeah. She's like a little tank, and because somebody said, oh, we should call her Tank Girl, and it's like, no, you can't do that. It's already been done, and the whole movie, and then Gwen Stefani thing, and all that, and no, just call her Little Tank. I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd never had a nickname before, not a nice one anyway. So, there's plenty of people have called me, not very nice things in the past for multiple reasons, but that was quite a nice one. So I thought, yeah, I'll keep that.
Yeah, it took a lot of work to get it.
Yeah, it did.
Really cool.
It did. So that was what it was. They just see the shoulders and the legs, and they were like, oh my god, So yeah, it was quite a cool time. I did achieve some good size for bodybuilding when I lived there. That was a productive time in my life.
Yeah, it really sounds like it. So you have a lot of superhero tattoos.
I do.
Like, what's with where does the thing with the superheroes come from, and why did you choose the ones that you have?
Well, I have always loved Superman, and I was a kid at the time when Christopher Reeve was Superman. So I grew up seeing him as Superman. So, and not the old comic books, and not the old black and whites, and not the new ones from now. It was him, and I always I just loved him, and I could just watch those movies over and over. And I just love what he's all about. He's just such a pure and good person that does so much good for the world and always helps. And I just loved that character. So I said from a young age, whenever I get tattoos, I'm going to get the Superman symbol. And I remember people would say to me, oh God, no, don't do that. You'll regret it. Oh no, don't do it. And you listen to people, and it's like, oh, okay, I won't do it. And I got my first tattoo when I was 30, which wasn't a Superman related one. And then a number of years later, I was on social media, and I was flicking through different images, and I found this comic book image of Superman and Wonder Woman in an embrace. And I thought, oh, because the women that I trained when I lived in the Shetland Islands referred to me as Wonder Woman. Okay, that'll work.
That's cool.
And I just loved this. I loved this image. And so I went and took it to an artist in Shetland. She's a really good tattoo artist, and she she looked at it and she went, "Oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that. And what do you want with it?" So there's certain quotes that kind of speak to me as well. And one was from the movie Rocky Balboa. So I said, "Well, can you do this?" So she said, "Yeah, we'll do it as like a comic book theme." And it just kind of spiraled from there. So she said, "Oh, we can make this a sleeve if you wanted." Yeah, okay. So each time I would go in, we would just decide what bit was coming next. So this part came first, and then before we know where we're at, we're going down to the kryptonite, and then we're going down to another Superman, and there's quotes everywhere, and there's Wonder Woman symbols, and there's a cow under here, and another quote there, and then I have the Superman symbol on my back shoulder. And it took about 18 months to get the whole lot done. But yeah, it started off just as that image. That was all I wanted. And then I just thought, yeah, I like this. and it's like the more tattoos you get, the more they become part of you. And I realized it was like a reflection of my personality as well. And it just fit me. So yeah, I just kept adding, kept having more and more done, and it's like, here we are, so I've got one arm done. Eventually I'm going to have the other one completely done as well. I'm going to have to balance this out. But yeah, Superman was, I've always loved him. Wonder Woman, no, that was purely because I was referred to as that. And just when I saw the two of them, I thought, yeah, I like that. I like that. Because when someone speaks to you, you just get it done. And yeah, it just felt right at the time. And I'm really happy I got it done. It gets you noticed,
Yeah, it does. They look really good, and yeah, it's kind of like when you have like the character of like yourself, and the big muscles and the strength and the mohawk, and you have like a kind of like the bigger than life, not just your average Jane kind of person. So you have like kind of accented like the more like the strength, and like more to the character than just like a human, like something like more than that. And yes, I think it looks really cool. What's the other sleeve going to be? Or what? Are you going to say something? Or did I just interrupt?
I already have on this arm. I'm a Bryan Adams nut. I've seen him many times in concert. So I have some lyrics from his song 18 Till I Die here, and then I have Reckless here. I'm also a bit of a Bon Jovi fan, and they have a song that refers to a phoenix rising from the ashes, like "Welcome to the future, it's a new day." And so I've got it in my head that I want a phoenix rising as a sleeve, along with some of those words as well. So I like things that kind of tie in. So that one, I've got visions of it being, kind of red and orange and yellow and very fiery. So yeah, that's the plan. When that will get done, I have no clue. But it'll get done eventually. Like I say, I'm all about balance now. I can't have one done and not the other. We've got to get a balance. And then when they're done, I'll have to come across here. So yeah. So it's going to be a never-ending thing.
So with your like you're doing like some like workshops and stuff now with James, and you're calling it like Kama Sutra barbell, and so can you like tell us like what's that all about? Why did you pick that name? He was on the show, as you know, a few weeks ago or so.
Yeah.
And like talking about it a little bit, but like what's your whole take on like what are these workshops?
He talks a lot, doesn't he? You can't get him to shut up once he starts. You'd have needed to give him another 3 hours for him to get for him to get everything done that he wants to say.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to have him on again. He's he knows so much. He's such like and also such just a really nice guy, just a nice guy, and tremendous amount of information. It was history and like something that like stuck out for some reason. Talking to him, he was talking like stretching the muscle in 3D. And I don't think I ever like thought about that before. So he was talking about getting a pump while you're stretching. So he's like, it's like for example, like I asked for like what he meant more, and he's like, Matt, like doing like good mornings, but like 30 reps or something like that. So you're getting the stretch and you're getting a pump.
Mhm.
I was like, that's a really, I don't think I ever thought about it like that. I was just like, you just stretch or you just, but yeah, he has just a tremendous amount of information. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, like,
It's
so what are
getting the
these?
reps done. It's getting the reps in so that you can create a strong enough message that your body will adapt, because that's a real problem with the way that people stretch or do their mobility work. They're really not doing it to any great degree or intensity. So they're really missing the point. And there's a train of thought as well that I've experienced firsthand. I don't know if you've experienced this, but before I met James, I actually had a very high level coach basically say to me that the reason I had the mobility issues that I had was as a direct result of my years of bodybuilding, and that you cannot lift like that and expect to get off scot-free, Kirsten. It's just not going to happen. You have got to stop this with your weights, and you're going to have to switch full on into mobility, stretching, yoga type modalities, because you have, in essence, you have fucked yourself up for the last 20 plus years doing this stuff that has shortened everything, and we're going to have to undo it and unpick it and stretch you out. I had really bad shoulders, you know, just to give you an idea. This is really what this other coach was referring to. I had jammed up hips and I had bad shoulders. They were just tight. So, and I'd worked my way around it over a lot of years, you know, so it never presented a problem when I was competing, because I'm pretty smart when it comes to training. If I can't do that well, I'll do that, and I'll do that to death. And then I'm still going to get more benefit than if I did that. So that wasn't a big deal for me. But getting up in the morning and feeling stiff and sore was a big deal for me. And that was getting more and more and more as I was getting older. So I was looking for something to loosen off and, you know, get my body back to where I wanted it. I missed having freedom of movement, and you don't realize how much you miss it until it's gone. And I could just feel my body progressively getting tighter. So anyway, this really high level coach, I believed every word this guy said, and what he teaches is amazing stuff. But, and that's a big but, I think it's kind of misguided. I think that strength training does not cause problems. Improper or incorrect strength training causes problems.
Mm-hmm.
Imbalanced strength training and protocols cause problems. It's not the modality that's the problem, it's the person doing the modality that's the problem. So it's like if we can teach people to be more balanced in their training, they're going to avoid these issues that so many other coaches perceive as being part of the course. Because they're not. We can avoid the majority of these injuries that come at us. So for me, I had over years penned myself into a corner with the moves that I could do. My body was getting tighter and tighter. I was able to do less and less. And the less and less movement that you do, the tighter you become. You're screwing yourself, you know, but I didn't know how to get out of it. So I was trying really hard to do quite intensive mobility regimes, which was working up to a point, but it was taking me away completely from what I loved, which is strength training, you know, because I was told you've got to step completely away from this. You have to, in order to unpick what you've done, you know, because you've done a lot of damage by doing this. We've got to unpick it. When James and I started seeing each other, and I knew a lot about about what he did, but he didn't try and force anything onto me. He would just make a suggestion now and again. Well, have you thought about doing this? Try that when you're in the gym tomorrow. See how it goes. Okay, I'll try it. And I would find that something would work. And then the first time he came over to Scotland, and we, I remember he got me doing the Arthur lift. I think the very first training session we ever did together. That's where we popped the bar up the back. You know, you hop it up the back to the shoulders. And I struggled like hell doing this, but I did it. And I was uncomfortable, but I did it. And I thought, wow, I can do this. My body can move. And the more reps I did, the looser my body became. And it's like, yeah, now we're getting somewhere. This is pretty good. And that's when the penny dropped for me. I thought, this is what he means. So we're putting movement back into strength training that is missing or has been missing for a long time. Because if you think about it, back in my grandfather's day and before him, you know, what did people do who didn't have, you know, power cages or benches or squat racks? What was done? You know, because people still trained, you know, but they didn't, you know, so they would still get the bar from the floor up to their shoulders. How did they do it? They were having to do it themselves and practice good mobility. And when you look at these guys who were training this way all that time ago, what's also really interesting when you find out their own backgrounds, a lot of these people were wrestlers, you know, and so these guys had to know how to move, because you can't be a wrestler or a martial artist and have sticky shoulders. You know, you'll be screwed if you do. You know, someone's going to get you in a headlock and you're not going to get out. So if you look at those people that came up with these things, and then as the years have gone on, you know, it's like people in their infinite wisdom, or, you know, people making money out of selling equipment, have had us believe that their equipment is now better. And all the equipment does is it makes us move less and less and less. And as we've started to move less and less and less, we're seeing injuries going up and up and up. It's a direct link. Yeah. It's like in running, even, you know, you look at the amount of knee and hip surgeries that are related to people who do running, you know, and those have gotten worse and worse and worse as the shoes have gotten better. They've not gotten better. What the shoes have done is they've reinforced bad habits. They've encouraged heel strike, which we are not meant to do. Yeah. You know, and that's something I've discussed with Steve Maxwell quite a lot. He's really passionate about that. And he's really into the whole barefoot, you know, minimalist footwear kind of thing, which I am as well. And I've worn minimalist footwear for at least 10 years now. But that's like another story. But this is where progress actually is not progression, it's regression. You know, so the more we're trying to change things and it's meant to be evolution, we're actually shooting ourselves in the foot and winding up with more problems. So when James taught me to Arthur lift, that was my aha moment. Okay, now I get this. Now I get why he's doing all this stuff. This isn't just stuff that looks cool on YouTube. And this isn't just stuff that will get you a few likes on Instagram. This is actually stuff that will make you physically feel better and move better and function better. So I went from not being able to back squat for over 20 years. I mean, I front squatted, I genie style front squatted because my forearms were a mess as well. So I couldn't Olympic style front squat. I had to genie style with a bar. And I was really good at it and my legs were great, you know, but, you know, I was reinforcing a problem by not fixing my shoulders. And yet, as soon as he got me to Arthur lift, there's me standing there with a bar on my back for the first time in over 20 years. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You know, and it's because I was moving. I was actually making my body get into that position. And don't get me wrong, it was not comfortable at first, but it got so much easier. Second, the third, the fourth workout. And now I Arthur lift the bar the whole time. I don't use a power cage anymore. I don't use squat stand. If I want to get the bar to my shoulders, I get it there myself. And it's just the way I do it now. And that ensures that simple thing alone, of getting the bar from the floor to where I want it, is essentially mobility work. But it's something that's included within our session, rather than treating it as a separate entity, which nowadays so many people are doing. They have their mobility stretching session, which will often be before a workout begins, then they're training, and then they've got their cool down work. So what we're saying is, well, you really shouldn't need to do that. How much time do you have to commit to a workout? Let's be honest, most of us are time poor. So if we're moving like this within our training, our warm-ups should be negligible. Mm-hmm. So for me, I used to have to spend about 30 minutes, sometimes even 40 minutes warming up before I would train, just so I would be loose enough to be able to move. And because I really was not in a good way. Like, I'd look great on my videos, but you should have seen me when I was getting out of bed in the morning. It was not fun. And I went from having 30 to 40 minute warm-ups, and now I don't. I just go in and get on with it. If I'm feeling a bit tight through my shoulders, as I often am, because of the intensity of work that I do, that's unavoidable. You're going to get tight, I'll just take a straight bar and do shoulder dislocate for, multiple rounds of 10 or whatever, and get the bar right behind me, touch my butt back over, keep doing that for rounds, and then I'm good to go. So yeah, it's changed everything about the way that I train, because I was having to warm up more and more and more, and it's now that I'm not having to do that, it's made me even more aware of other people who are having to do that. So it's made me and James even more passionate that this is something we really do need to share with people. It's like, well, if we're not having to do this, and we're older than some of you guys, if we can buy back this mobility, maybe you can too. You just have to be willing to think outside the box and try something a wee bit different. And it's really funny, because nobody's reinventing the wheel here. This is all stuff that's been done many, many years ago. Yeah. People just forgot it, because we automatically believe that the way things are being done now are progressions. We are moving on to something better, and we're actually not. It's not a case of moving on to something better. It's just making more money for a marketing company quite often, is all it is. So it's really interesting. So yeah, it's taking the old stuff into now to benefit you now, and to offset lifestyle, because lifestyle is the big thing that lets people down. So many people are sitting on their bums the majority of their day, whether it's at a desk or a student or driving, whatever. And their posture is getting really poor. People are collapsing in on themselves. So we're having to open up the body and keep it nice and supple. And the old time strongman lifts will help you to do that by default. They will open you up without you even necessarily having to think about having to do that. It's just the way that you will move when you start to incorporate these things into your routine. So we don't try and get people to all of a sudden become old-time strongmen, and go and get your unitard on and, put something high above your head. No, just take some of what these people did, put it into your training as it is now, and see how you feel. Yeah. Subtle changes can make a massive difference.
Yeah, sometimes you don't even know what you're missing. You might not even think about, like, well, why do the Arthur lift? It's just complicated, and why bother doing that? It's just like a trick. It's just like a stunt, but there's more to it than that. And even if maybe they knew like what they were preventing a long time ago, or maybe they just never ran into the problem anyway. So they were like, well, as long as we do it this way, then we're not going to have this problem. It was just like, but you take that out, you see the injuries that happen, the lack of mobility, then you're like, oh, well, maybe if we added this back in, oh, and this went away. So like James is saying, oh, why don't you try this? And maybe at first, were you thinking this is just a stunt lift, just like a cool thing to do?
Yeah, I remember for me, the very first clip that I saw James doing, and this was before him and I got together, I saw him doing a Steinborn with over 400 pounds. A Steinborn lift, for anyone that doesn't know what that is, we tip the bar up, okay, onto one end. So you got a loaded barbell, tip it up, completely upended, and then you get in side on and tip it over, and then you squat, you finish, tip it down, put it back down on the floor. And it was named after the inventor, Milo Steinborn. It's been around for a very, very long time. And it's a really cool lift. I quite enjoy doing those, actually. And anyway, I saw him doing this lift. I'm looking at it going, oh my God. Because I'd never seen anyone do this before. Because, of course, my background is bodybuilding. And I just thought, wow, this guy's nuts. he's full on nuts. But this is impressive. I want to see more. So yeah, I initially looked at it and I just thought this is mental. And then you start to learn the history of this and the reason why. And you just think about it logically. What did we do before we had all of these things that we have in the gyms now? And you've still got people, home gym warriors, that don't have a lot of stuff there. So how are you going to train? You're not just going to give up because you don't have the latest squat stands or you can't afford a power rack. There's always a way to figure out how to do something. The answers were there all the time. It's always been an option. It's just that people have forgotten about these things, or they've never done it, or they've believed the crap that we're being fed now by conventional and mainstream trainers, in that we are somehow safer to use the equipment that is there now. It's like the whole rubbish that floats around gyms, where trainers will say, and I still hear it to this day, and it drives me insane, don't squat below parallel, you'll hurt your knees. And I just go off on them when I hear that, because it's like, no, you will hurt your knees if you only ever go to parallel. Get all the way down, use your entire musculature to drive back out of that hole. We are designed to squat. We are born able to move like this. We are using fundamental human movement, and as soon as we shorten those ranges of motion, we create problems, because we're stopping the body moving in the way it was designed to move, the way it's meant to move. And I've had a lot of people over the years on social media publicly say to me, your knees are in for it when you're older. You shouldn't be squatting that low. And I have to, say to them again, we are meant to move like this. We're designed to do this. So yeah, it's mainstream has a big part to play. And like I say, a lot of people will believe things that are in mainstream media. And I think it's like modern day myths now. It's like when things are said and they keep being said, all of a sudden it seems to just become truth. Nobody questions, well, maybe it's not true. They just believe it because so many people have already said it. It doesn't mean it's true, like anything in the media, So it's really interesting. I was training a guy the other week who'd contacted me about teaching him to squat. He'd seen me in the gym and he said, look, would you give me some pointers on my squat? I said, absolutely. So we went into the gym and I found out this guy is a student. So he, and he's a typical student. you know, so he was kind of collapsing in here. You know, he's spending a lot of time hunched over his computer screen, you know, and then when he's not doing that, he's driving. You know, it's just a typical way that people are living now. So I said to him, come on, let's do the Arthur lift together. And he just kind of looked at me. I said, you know, when I pop that bar up my back? He said, yeah, let's try that. I got him to do it and he nailed it first time. And as he's standing there and I'm telling him to keep his chest high, pull his shoulders back, and just saw his posture just went, he just clicked upright. I said, how you feeling? Great. Great. I said, right, squat from there. And he did it. And he would come back out the hole and I had him doing pause squats and everything from the Arthur lift. And it was one session. And he finished that session and I said, how'd you feel? He said, that feels awesome. He said, oh, my shoulders feel great. You know, so this is offsetting lifestyle. So he wanted to learn how to squat. He learned how to squat, but he also got a lesson in mobility and getting to move as well. So it's like we can take these things and apply them to now to, you know, deal with the negative effects of the way we all live now. Because it's just the way it is. We have to offset lifestyle, and putting people into a Smith machine that dictates your movement, or putting them onto a leg extension that dictates your movement, or a pec deck that dictates your movement. Nobody's bracing on any of these things. They're not having to get into the position and squeeze into that position. I just think we just need to rewind, get people in touch with their bodies, and using their bodies and not machines. I think if we do that, we're going to see much, much stronger people coming out of gyms than we do right now. Because the global gyms that have appeared all over the world the last 10, 15 years are not doing anyone any favors. You know, you've just got people going in, spending minimal money to go to a gym, not getting decent help when they're there, and wondering why they're not progressing. So it's kind of the modern day malady. So it's, yeah, if we can even just reach a few people every time we teach a workshop, or see someone now and again, or, you know, someone clicks on our videos in social media and goes, that looks interesting, I'll try that. If they feel better, great, because that one person then might say to someone else, have you tried this? It's the ripple effect. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're bucking the trend, you know, and we're not frightened to do so. It's somebody has to, because the industry as it is can't keep going the way it is, because it's just imploding on itself. I think it is anyway. I just think it's a real mess. Everyone's taken a stance according to something that they're very religious about. Even within kettlebells, I mean, you'll know this as well as I do. You have people who are devout gear voice sport. You cannot do anything out with GS.
Mm-hmm.
GS is the answer to everything, including world peace. And then you've got, you know, your hard style ones on this side who are saying exactly the same thing, you know, and then you've got CrossFit over here who are saying exactly the same thing. Everyone is claiming to be all things to everyone, but they're not, you know. So we have to become more well-rounded and balanced in our thinking, and we have to make up for the shortfalls in whatever modality or program we're practicing. You know, so if something that we are practicing, for example, gear voice sport, you know, GS is awesome, and I know some phenomenal GS lifters, some of the world's best, you know, but let's be honest, you know, it doesn't do much for your posture, you know, and it's pretty horrendous, really. And unless some of these guys balance out their program, they're going to end up with pretty poor, you know, injuries down the line. So I think if you look at the sport that you choose to do and say, okay, I love this sport, it's amazing, but what's it lacking? Mm-hmm. And then you find something that's going to offset that imbalance. You're going to be a much stronger lifter, and your career is going to be much, much longer. So, you know, a good example of that for GS, there's a guy on Instagram, David, I'm sure his name's David, he's from Ireland. His Instagram tag is Irish Move Athlete, I believe. He has come up with a yoga program for GS athletes. And this guy's amazing. He's really cool, and he started teaching workshops in does he call it kettle yoga? I want to call it kettle yoga. I'd have to double check. He's a really interesting guy, and he does competitive GS, and he's very, very good at it. He holds records in it. He's not just someone who's making up the numbers. He's really good. And he also does mace. He does bodyweight work. He does yoga. He does calisthenics. He's so well-rounded. And the more well-rounded he has become, the better his GS numbers have been getting as well. So he's one person who proves the point of what James and I say. Fix your weaknesses. You know, get rid of them, and then whatever your main thing is, you're going to excel even more at.
Yeah.
So this is kind of where we're at now. Don't be so, you know, tunnel visioned that you're going to stay in this particular box, because that particular box may be your downfall if that's all you ever do. You have to realize there's more out there and balance out your body. So yeah, that Irish guy, I think I love his stuff. I love following him on social media and seeing what he does. Because I have great respect for people like him that are not frightened to think outside the box, and it's working.
Yeah, I don't think I know who you're talking about. I'm going to look him up though, and see if I can get him on the show.
Irish Move Athlete. His name is definitely David. I can't remember his surname. I've tagged multiple people in his posts before because I just think he's a really interesting guy. Yeah. And yeah, he's a real interesting guy.
Yeah, I'll get a hold of him for sure. That sounds really cool.
He's exceptionally good at GS. Very, very good. And so yeah, I think his training, he's got this stuff figured out.
Yeah. I think there's some wisdom also in. It's like you're talking about like people that do like all these different things. But when that guy contacted you, he was like, can you help me with my squat? He wasn't like, can you help me with my squat and my good morning and my deadlift and my barbell curl and my barbell press and my arthro lift and just like the last person, most of the time when people get a hold of me, can you help me with my swing? And like the last one that contacted me just a couple days ago was like, can you help me with my swing? And I was like, yes, I can. And I was like, it's good to have a narrow focus, because it's like, yeah, we can help you with your swing, but and that swing has like this, like deeper and deeper levels of like what you're actually doing. So even though you're like, yeah, it's pretty simple. It's a hinge. It's explosive. Should take like 10 seconds to describe what it is, but it doesn't. It gets deeper and deeper. And so even if you've done 1,000 of them or 10,000 of them, you're like, still like, oh, and it just gets like deeper and deeper. So it's like, yeah, we can do that. And then we can also like maybe like balance it out with some get ups, because I didn't know his background. So it's like figuring out where he is and in his trainings. But yeah, it's like if you just focus on like a couple things, then more and more will open up to you, like build that solid foundation. And like sometimes when I've started to train somebody, like at first they're like, yeah, we like what you're doing, but maybe we would like more variety. Like, trust me, you don't need more variety. We can like switch some stuff up. I want you to have fun. I want you to like your workout. It's not like I'm preparing you for competition. There's millions of dollars on the line. No, you can't do something that's fun just because it's fun. It's like, yeah, you're coming here. I want you to have fun, but like, trust me, the variety will come. But let's focus on these few things, and then like it's amazing what they do. And then maybe when they're like looking at like, okay, so they've been with me 6 months, a year, and they're looking at what they can do now compared to what they used to do. And they're looking at what someone else in the gym is doing, not to like talk bad about what other people are doing, because people can do different things. They're still lifting the same weights, and they're doing their tricep extension, and they're doing their this, but they don't know how to squat.
Yeah.
They don't know how to deadlift. Their posture is horrible. They're not getting coached on the stuff that really matters. So it's like, let's look at this swing, and the swing is can fix a lot. You do the swing and the get up, and now we're really opening up so many worlds that you don't even know. And so then when you try to do these new things that are cool, like these cool tricks, you might be able to like do it the first time you try because you've built this foundation of. So when people would come to somebody like you that's an expert, and they're looking at you doing 50 different cool things, and they're like, oh, I want to do these 50 different cool things. No, maybe just ask her about the squat. Is that how you're thinking too, or what's your opinion on that?
What's my opinion on, what was that first bit you said? Yeah,
on like when people come to you, do you want them to come to you with like a list of 20 things, or is it better to come like a goal, or what is it? How can people get the most out of a session with you?
Well, I usually say to people, if they want me to train them, or if they want, James and I to help them in program or whatnot, the thing that I always say to them is, be honest with yourself. What do you want to accomplish? What's your goal? And a lot of people have not asked themselves that very simple question. So many people are, going into a gym environment or training at home or whatever. Oh, I want to be fit. Okay, that is vague beyond belief. Let's get specific. What do you want? Be honest. So I give people an exercise before I even train them. And I get them to get an A4 sheet of paper out and brainstorm things that pop into their head. What do they want to do? That could be things like, I want to lose 40 pounds. It could be, I want to be able to swing the 32 kilo kettlebell. It could be, I want to get out of bed in the morning and not be in pain. It might be, I want to have shoulders that move again. It could be, I want to have a butt that looks good and short. I don't care what it is. Put down anything, whatever comes into your head, and then circle the words or phrases that mean the most to you, and put that in a short list of, say, 3 or 4, and then show me that. And then from there, I'll know where you need to go. And we can get specific with what we're trying to do. And exercise becomes prescriptive. Because I think when people do things that are, oh, I just want to be fit, it's so general and it's so vague. So just let's tap into, what do you want to achieve? This is why there's so many people start things and stop them as quick as they start them, because they haven't really got an innate sense of what they want to get out of this. So that's something that I always ask people to do. Let's be honest and get your reasons down on paper. Then you already are clear in your mind. Well, actually, I want to do this. Yeah, I want to accomplish this. And it gets them maybe more excited. I actually have an end game here, something that I'm aiming for. But also that exercise must be done every few months, because, people change, goals change, things, life changes, so continually reevaluate. I do this every few months. James does it every few months. A lot of successful people do that every few months, where you're sitting down and being honest with yourself, looking at what you've accomplished in the last few months. Am I happy here? There's something I'm not really happy with. What do I need to change? Write it down, and then your next step forward becomes apparent, because we're continually developing and learning. So not everyone is willing to do this exercise. And if they're not willing to do it, I don't train them. That's simple. Nope. I just put my foot down on that one now. It's like, if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to be willing to do the work that I'm going to expect of you. if you can't be bothered to sit down for half an hour with a sheet of paper and a pen. So I demand, commitment from the people that I invest time in. So it's like, if they're willing to do that, I will help them. If they're not willing to do it, go and find someone else, because it ain't me. So I think that's a very useful exercise to get into the habit of doing, for your beginning stages and throughout your lifting career, for however long that may be, or if you diverse into some other kind of thing that you enjoy, it's good to always have it in your head, continually reassess, because we change. You change, that's just life. That's the way it is. You might end up with an injury, okay, I'm injured in this right now, so I need to heal from this injury. That's my number one goal. Okay. So, now we need to put rehabilitative work in here so that you can come back stronger and that we prevent this happening in the future. So assessment is very, very important. So that's a big thing for me. Yeah.
I think a lot of people, maybe even especially women, they don't really know what's possible. Or like if you have like a woman coming and maybe she's like 40 something, and maybe she's thinking that she should be lifting the 8-pound dumbbells and like doing a few things like some curls and some side raises maybe, and she thinks that she should be using the lightweights because it's safer. And doesn't even cross her mind that she could ever deadlift her body weight or carry more than her body weight with a trap bar across the floor.
Yeah.
Sometimes like these people, like I have like a couple like that I train, a husband and wife, and they've been with me since I got back into training, which was a little over 3 years ago is when I got back into it. And they've been with me the whole time, very consistent, like twice a week. And you can get really good results on twice a week. And she starts out like neither one of them were really exercising before. And then, but like just like little by little, adding the weights, cycles, not like random acts of variety, as Dan John puts it, not like just variety for variety's sake. We can have fun. It's cool, different. But these just fundamental techniques, deadlift, squat, press, these just fundamental things, progressions. And then you look back, and like my favorite thing is to see people when they're surprised at what they just did. Does this deadlift or does a trap bar carry across the floor and back? How much weight was that? 160. Oh, maybe she weighs like 145 or something like that. Doesn't even like, and then it just like, there was a moment where it just sinks in that something that she never thought she could ever do. And this isn't just one person I'm speaking. I'm kind of speaking generally for these things I see happen, that like if you're a woman and you're 45, there's no reason that you can't like get very, very strong, or they'll have like the fear or whatever of like, oh, I'm going to get too bulky. Like that's going to happen accidentally. They're just going to wake up and look like Arnold in the 80s. It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Yeah. But, that's a very common thing with women. I completely agree with you on that one. And it's really quite sad when you think about it in this day and age, that we still have people frightened to push themselves. I'm not frightened to push people. And I remember I used to run what I referred to as my conditioning camps when I lived in the Shetland Islands, which is the very furthest north you can go in the UK. And I had classes that I taught there. I referred to them as my conditioning camps. And I had women coming to me that had never done anything before. They'd done nothing since they were at school, maybe in their 30s, now had several kids. And here they are, they're coming into this scary woman's classes, and she's got a massive tire for flipping and sledgehammers out and kettlebells and, heavy ass stuff that we have to pull in by a rope and then get down low and drive it back. And it can be really daunting for people that don't know, but the minute someone does it and they pull it off successfully, it's like something happens to them. You can see it in their eyes. It's like, I can do this. And I had a thing in my classes, we called it the Troy Challenge. I used to own a tire, and we nicknamed him Troy. Okay. Troy boy. And he was 120 kilos. And I taught all of these women how to flip this tire. And I had hundreds of women over about a 2.5 year period that came to my classes. Every single one of them flipped this tire. And the Troy Challenge was max reps in 40 seconds for flipping them. And they were just like possessed when that thing came out. It's like they were just gunning for it. And they'd all be writing down their numbers and competing with each other to try and get more and more and more and more reps out. So yeah, when you show people what they can do, they'll embrace it. So I think, we should never, as coaches, we should never be frightened to push people that we know we can push. We should know how far we can push people, because we should be smart enough and have enough experience that we can tell how much is enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of other coaches. They are erring on the side of caution all the time. And they're erring on the side of caution to the point that people aren't getting results. They're just playing it safe for fear of being seen as someone who's going to hurt them. Whereas I didn't throw caution to the wind when I was teaching all these women, but I knew that they were capable of way more than what they believed they were capable of. And I knew they were capable of way more than a lot of other coaches had given them credit for before. So I had that tire out very often for this. And we would, with kettlebells, I had a rule: no one was allowed to swing anything less than the 16 kilo kettlebell. That's against the law, not happening. If you're a guy, you don't swing anything less than purple, which is 20 kilos. If you're a woman, nothing less than the 16. But if you're doing one arm work, it's different. We'll change it. But for a 2-arm swing, no. Those are your minimums. And I will kick your arse if I find you doing anything less than that. And out of fear, they would do it the way I said them to do it. So I was quite firm, and I still am, when I'm teaching now, because I want people to see what they are capable of. I want them to push themselves, and find out that they don't have limitations that they thought they did have. Because we live in a society now that is very dominated by fear. People are frightened of being hurt. They're frightened of getting injured. They're frightened of failing. They're frightened of getting up in the morning half the time. Like, no, try something. You never know. You might actually enjoy it, and you might actually be good at it. Yeah. So it was like I say, just when I taught that guy to Arthur lift last week, just the look on his face when he did it, and he's standing taller, and you can tell he had his light bulb moment. He was like, okay, this feels good. I'm where I'm meant to be. And as soon as he dropped into his squat, his body positioning and everything was just bang on. It's like, everyone has their light bulb moment, but it takes those of us in, I guess, influence, or those of us that teach, to be strong enough to be able to push people, and to have confidence enough in our own abilities to be able to push people.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time in the industry. I have to say, there's a lot of people out there that shouldn't be in this game, and there's people that are not teaching that should be teaching because they're really good, and they don't teach.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting time, but in general, people aren't pushed hard enough.
Yeah.
Not pushed hard enough.
Yeah. It's weird how people are just held back by their beliefs. And it's like, I was thinking, and you're experiencing the same thing, just as a trainer, like you're looking at somebody and they think that maybe they should be using 10 pounds. And you're like, no, actually you should be using more like 30. or you should be, grab that 35-pound kettlebell, your 16-kilogram kettlebell. You need to grab that one. But like at first it's heavy. No, learn how to move it. Here's how you move it. Oh, okay. I can have this thing. I can make this thing float with my power. And it's just kind of like I said, see other like trainers, and people like what they like. Some people like yoga. Some people like football. Some people like boxing. Somebody would rather do Tai Chi. So people can like different stuff, but it is kind of this thing as a trainer, and you're one of them where you can just look at somebody like you can do more, and you see another trainer that they're not getting out of that person what's in there. They don't see like the artist carving out of like the granite. They don't see that. They're just like kind of like polishing this thing. They're like, no, you got to like chip away at this thing. You can actually create something that and they don't even know it's here. They're trying, but just
no, it's an interesting time, but we've got to push people, whatever their goal, we've got to encourage them to go a step further than what they would do themselves, because I think that's our role. Take them on that little bit further and just let them see you can do this, and if you don't like it, fine, you don't have to do it, but at least you can. You're now choosing not to. It's not that you physically can't, because you can now. You're just choosing not to do it. So we're kind of taking away some of the excuses here. People then have to kind of man up, so to speak. Oh yeah, I can do that. I'm just being lazy by not doing it. Rather than people often using that excuse of I can't. So we're capable of way more than we believe we are, and our bodies are capable of bouncing back a lot faster and a lot stronger than what many of us believe. A lot of people see injuries as being game over, and very often it's not. It can be just the beginning. An injury can be, a lesson to be learned, and now we're going to come back from this, and we're going to make sure we don't wind up back there again. So it's a mindset thing that for James and I as Kama Sutra Barbell, it's we put out a lot of content on social media that hopefully inspires some people to try different lifts, things they wouldn't have thought about doing before. We put out demonstrations of us training or actual tutorials where we're teaching people to do certain things. And it's with a view to letting people see what they can try. Give it a go. Will it work for you? Try, and let us know how you get on. It's raising awareness that there is a way that you can take charge of your body and take charge of maybe issues that you have, that you've maybe felt were out with your control, and realizing, well, it's actually not out with my control. I can fix this. And I can fix it relatively quickly, and that's something that we're very passionate about. We don't believe that people should have to do something for months to see a result. We think it's something that people should see and feel very fast. In the first workout, we should be feeling a difference, and within 2, 3, 4 workouts, then you're apparently moving differently. You're apparently feeling better. You're getting up in the morning and you're not anywhere near as stiff and tight and sore as you were. So it's not just about looking cool in the gym and moving better in the gym. It's about making sure the rest of your life you just feel better as well, because we don't spend the majority of our lives lifting. We spend the majority of our lives doing other life stuff. Lifting is actually a very small part of that. So you want to make sure that you are feeling as good as you can feel all the time. And we think smart training will help you do that.
Yeah, definitely. We're rounding about like an hour and a half here. It goes really fast. I could keep.
Yeah.
I could talk to you about this stuff for another couple hours easily. But maybe we should start to wrap it up. Is there anything else that you're wanting to get into?
Not really. you know, if we have a discussion again in the future, I'm sure we can talk about other stuff. I mean, I can talk all night. If anyone's interested in what me and James do, my other half is James Fuller. We are on social media under the name Kama Sutra Barbell. So it's very easy to find us. There's no one else called Kama Sutra Barbell, just us. It's all one word. So we can be found on Instagram under that name. We can be found on Facebook under that name. We have, Instagram and Facebook accounts, and we are contactable through both accounts. And we just put up some quite cool content that people may well like if they want to check us out. If people are interested in actually working with us, we do teach seminars, with regards to old time movement and old time lifting, and how it applies to the here and now. Just, how we can use these things and apply them into your training now. Whatever your goals. It doesn't matter what your goals are. If you are missing something, there's a missing piece of the puzzle, we'll usually be able to find the missing piece and put it back in there for you. So we're kind of like problem solvers in the training world. That's one way we would kind of view ourselves. So yeah, we teach some pretty cool stuff, and we've trained for so many years. It's ridiculous. I think between us, we've got over 50 years of experience in lifting. So we've learned a thing or two in that time, So yeah, do check us out. If what we do appeals to you, feel free to get in touch with us. We have a huge library on YouTube as well, which is under James's account. And we have many links to our YouTube channels as well, again, through our other social media accounts. So, yeah. My name is Kirsten, also known as Little Tank, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to chat to you tonight. It's been great fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I would definitely like to have you on again. We could just go on and on for hours and hours talking about this, all the nuance of training. So I appreciate you coming on. It was nice to get to know you more. And any last thoughts for everyone before we stop?
Just keep training hard, everyone, and don't ever give up. And if you demand more from the people who train you, if you're someone who pays a professional to train you, and you don't feel you're getting what you want, or they can't answer all of your questions, find someone who can. People in this industry, we are there to help you. We're not there just to fleece you, or to take your money. We are actually there to support you and help you to be the better version of yourself that you want to be. If someone's not helping you to that end, find someone else who will, because there's a lot of us out there, and some of us are really, really good. So there's always another option. Demand more, and you never know, the trainer that you've got might actually be willing to step up to the plate. Just some of them don't get pushed very often. So yeah, demand more. That's what I would say. Yeah,
I like it. That's a good thing to end on. Thanks again. I will stop the recording. I'll talk to you for just a second after I stop the recording.
Thank you.